Y News with Angelo Castro III, William Theo, and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. On the current issues facing the Commission on Human Rights, Malacañang asserts it respects the opinions of the heads of constitutional commissions. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
The House of Representatives' approval of a 1,000 peso budget for the Commission on Human Rights for next year has been on the headlines recently. The controversy even trended on social media with a hashtag CHR budget cheaper. Netizens criticized the Solon's votes of 119 supporting the approval of the 1,000 peso budget for the Commission. Human Rights Watch claims such move is a strategy of the Duterte administration to silence government agencies opposing the policies of the government, particularly its anti-drug war. Malacañang says it respects the opinions of the heads of other government agencies.
The palace respects the opinions of the different heads of agencies, including constitutional commissions.
However, it did not deny that the government somehow feels insulted by criticisms. Nevertheless, it maintains such insults are not enough reason to force certain officials, particularly CHR Chairperson Chito Gascon, to resign, contrary to the position of House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez.
Of course, anyone in the same position would feel a little slighted if the opinions differ. So that's very natural for every human being. But the official policy is they're appointed for a fixed term, respect the fixed term, they have their own opinions, this is a free country, and so we respect the opinions of the different heads of agencies.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
The House of Representatives is now at the other end of the public outrage for cutting the budget of 3 government agencies with 1,000 pesos each. Here's why from Grace Cassid.
The House of Representatives will allocate the budget that was cut from the Commission on Human Rights, the National Commission for Indigenous People, and the Energy Regulatory Commission to the Free College Education Program of the government. House Committee on Appropriations Chairman Carlo Nograles says they're also thinking of slashing the budget of the Department of Education, Agrarian Reform, Transportation, and Information and Communication Technology.
Because we're looking for funds to support and implement the free higher education. So, doon natin nilalagay. And then, yung gaya ng sinabi ko, yung mga nakikita namin na slow-moving, low absorptive capacity, yun ang pagkukunan namin para dito.
Nograles adds that if ever they succeed in enacting the 1,000 peso budget for the 3 agencies, they could still ask for funding from the Department of Budget and Management.
I think they can use contingency funds to be able to augment operations in government. Basta ang importante is there's an item in the government that needs augmentation. So what was passed by Congress is an item.
Nograles explains that they do not see any other way from them to change their mind and return the budget proposal to its original form. In case the Senate decides to grant 3 agencies a much higher budget, this still has to go through the bicameral conference committee to further deliberation. In case the 2 chambers of Congress did not come to an agreement, the proposed 2018 budget will not be passed, and the Congress will adopt a reenacted budget. This means that the current national budget will be applied and adopted for 2018. Nograles says the application of the reenacted budget will render the government more difficulties in implementing its program and projects.
So if these projects have already been implemented, obviously in the previous budget, we can't put the same money into that same project kasi gawa na nga po yung project. So kung reenacted budget yan, we won't be able to implement new projects.
During the 9 years of Arroyo administration, the government operated on a reenacted budget for at least 4 times. But according to House Committee on Appropriations Chairman Carlo Nograles, they will not allow this to happen under the Duterte administration because they argue that a reenacted budget is a common cause of corruption. Grace Cassid, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
A Lumad group favors the abolition of the National Commission on Indigenous People, or NCIP. Rajel Adora will tell us why.
Instead of 1 billion pesos, the National Commission on Indigenous People, or NCIP, was also given only 1,000 pesos as budget for 2018. According to Bayan Muna Party List Representative Carlos Zarate, the agency had been unable to defend the rights of the indigenous people in the country. With this, Sandugo, an alliance of Bangsamoro and indigenous people, is now calling for the abolition of the NCIP. The group reasons that the agency has been causing them more harm than good.
Ang NCIP sa aming tingin ay para ang natutulungan nila yung paghati-hati ng mga tribo namin at lalo na doon sa magiging sila yung facilitator na pumasok yung mga dambuhalang kumpanya ng pagmina, plantasyon doon sa aming hanay.
NCIP on the other hand says they are able to address their mandate of protecting the land and territories of the indigenous people.
How can NCIP fail kung na-delineate niya ay 5.3 million hectares of ancestral domain all over the country? And then naka-issue siya ng Certificate of Ancestral Domain title over this area, 217 CADTs or titles for ancestral domain.
The agency, however, admits that they may have some lapses in some areas of their task, but allocating 1,000 pesos to their agency as budget for a whole year will render them helpless. The NCIP hopes that Senate will give them appropriate funding.
We are so sad dahil nga po yung budget na po yun, yung aming proposed budget ay para sa 14 million indigenous peoples all over the country.
Reynaldo, UNTV News Rescue, Philippines.
Meanwhile, senators plan to cut the budget of the Philippine National Police and transfer the slashed amount to the Intelligence Fund of the Department of National Defense, or DND. Here's why from Leslie Longbowen.
The proposed Intelligence Fund of the Department of National Defense, or DND, for 2018 is 1.5 billion pesos. Some senators noticed the amount would not suffice for the Defense Department's efforts to fight off terrorism, insurgency, as well as in gathering information and for the purchase of equipment.
Hindi enough yan kasi we really need to buy more intelligence information. Kulang talaga, kulang at kulang.
Senator Antonio Trillanes IV says the additional amount of 500 million pesos for the Project Tokhang is even bigger than the 250 million pesos additional budget allotted to the DND. With this, the senators plan to increase the intelligence fund of the Defense Department. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana says that last year, they asked for a 530 million peso increase in their budget, but that they were given 250 million pesos only.
Ang tingin ko naman yung allocate sa amin, meron kaming increase na 250 million over last year. Is already sufficient for us. Gagamitin ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. Hindi naman namin hinihingi na mag-realign sila, pero it's up to them.
Meanwhile, Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP Chief of Staff General Eduardo Año clarifies that they have not monitored any threat of destabilization against the Duterte administration, contrary to what Senator Antonio Trillanes claims. Based on information gathered by Senator Trillanes, a retired general is spreading a report on the alleged recruitment of soldiers of another former soldier and now a known politician. The recruitment, Trillanes claims, is for the conduct of a coup d'etat against the Duterte administration.
Our process is professional enough and we have constant TINE. So far, sir, we have not monitored any destabilization move or of any politician or personality.
Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian believes the allocation of a measly 1,000 peso 2018 budget to the Energy Regulatory Commission, or ERC, will bring adverse effects to the country's power supply. Here's why from Joan Nano.
Senate Committee on Energy Chairman Sherwin Gatchalian believes lawmakers should have not made as basis the alleged corruption in the ERC for allotting a very small amount for the agency's budget for next year. Gatchalian notes the Congress should have also considered the welfare of the 400 employees of the agency.
There are about, I think, 400 employees in the ERC. At sila rin maapektuhan dito, no? Dahil pag inabolish yung ERC, pati yung 400 employees na wala namang kinalaman doon sa corruption, mawawalan ng trabaho.
The limited budget, Gatchalian explains, would have a negative impact to the supply of electricity in the country.
Ang direktang epekto to sa consumer ay wala tayong kuryente. Wala tayong bagong supply ng kuryente. Yeah, it's already abolition. No? With 1,000, you cannot do anything.
Senator Gatchalian says he is talking with his counterpart in Congress, Representative Lord Alan Velasco, to reconsider the fund for the ERC. The 360 million peso proposed budget of the ERC for 2018 has already passed in the committee level of the Senate. Gatchalian stands firm that the Senate will approve the original proposed budget of the agency. In a statement, the ERC says it respects the decision of the Congress. However, it still hopes that the lawmakers would reconsider their allocated budget and to take into consideration the welfare of the agency's employees and the public. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
In other news, those who filed an impeachment complaint against the Commission on Elections Chief Andres Bautista say they will revise verification requirements. Grace Casin tells us why.
Attorney Ferdinand Topacio admits that they still have to rewrite the verification of the impeachment complaint they filed against Commission on Elections Chairman Andres Bautista. Topacio and former Congressman Jacinto Paras are the complainants in the impeachment complaint filed against Bautista before the lower house of Congress. Topacio says they will revise the writing of the verification at as soon as possible time, though they have already submitted to the House Committee. The lawyer notes the move is to ensure that their complaint will not be dismissed, similar to what happened to the impeachment rap filed by Dante Menes of Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption and Elio Malyari of the Vanguard of the Philippine Constitution against Supreme Court Chief Justice Marilourdes Sereno. Jimenez and Malyari's complaint was dismissed by Congress due to incorrect verification.
Sa amin yung yung verification to comply, which is very minor. It's a matter of wording, sabi ko, wording, syntax, nomenclature. Nothing substantial.
However, House Committee on Justice Chairman Reynaldo says they will still study whether or not to accept the new verification. Umali says this is because they don't want to appear biased.
I'm not sure na i-require na kasi sa amin Dapat kasi yung verification must be done. Diba? There must be a verified complaint filed. Problema kasi, unfair nito kasi isa, sinistiktuhan natin yung PCC. So parang hirap kasi you now have to apply different rules for the different parties.
The House Committee on Justice is set to hear the complaint seeking to oust COMELEC Chairman Andres Bautista on Tuesday. The said committee initially said they will be strict in implementing the rules of impeachment. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The Commission on Elections today issues some new resolutions on applying rules and regulations for gun ban and on hiring security personnel for the October 23 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections. The poll body also released the guidelines in assigning checkpoints in putting some areas under COMELEC control and in holding preliminary examinations for those who will commit election offenses. The COMELEC sets to present and explain to the media tomorrow the regulations on the gun ban.
7 party list representatives of the Makabayan bloc announces defection from the House supermajority. Leslie Longbowen tells us why. The Makabayan bloc describes the Duterte administration as pro-imperialist and anti-people to intensify their opposition to the administration. The bloc has announced its separation from the majority coalition in the House of Representatives.
Malinaw yun dun sa yung statement na inilabas namin nung kami pumaloob sa supermajority. Ang basis nito ay yung pagsuporta sa mga pro-people pronouncements ni Pangulong Duterte on various issues including peace talks, foreign policy, appointment to cabinet positions and so on. So yun naman ang basis. Ngayon, sinabi rin natin, inilinaw rin natin na wala na lahat ng mga batayan na yun. Kaya wala nang dahilan para manatili sa supermajority.
Among the issues opposed by the group are the reimposition of the death penalty, war on drugs, tax reform package, defunding of the Commission on Human Rights, and others. They are also dismayed over the rejection of leftists and activists in cabinet posts, including Judy Taguiwalo at the DSWD, Gina Lopez at the DENR, and Rafael Mariano at the DAR. Meanwhile, former DAR Secretary Mariano supports the Makabayan Bloc.
Ngayon ko po formal na ipinapahayag na ako po ay magiging madalas na nakakapit-bisig ng ating masang manggagawa, masang magkasaka, masang anak pawis, ng malawak na masa ng sambayan ng Pilipino sa magaganap na mga kilos protesta. Laban sa mga anti-mamamayan, antidemokratiko, pasista at neoliberal na mga patakaran ng US Duterte regime.
Because of the separation of the Makabayan Bloc from the supermajority, they will be stripped of their committee memberships, meaning they can only attend and participate in committee hearings, but they will no longer possess the right to vote. Meanwhile, they say their loss of their committee membership will not prevent them from expressing their views and pushing their advocacies. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
President Rodrigo Duterte appoints a former Gabriela Porteles Representative Lucy V. Minda Ilagan as Undersecretary of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD. Ilagan was a member of the House of Representatives from 2007 to 2016. Ilagan is appointed Undersecretary weeks after the Commission on Appointments rejected the ad interim appointment of then Social Welfare Secretary Judy Taguiwalo. Meanwhile, a taxi association targets to launch next month an online booking application for taxi cabs. Abby Santaines will tell us why.
With the aim of keeping a pace with the Transport Network Vehicle Service, or TNVs, booking of taxi cabs will soon become online. The Philippine National Taxi Operators Associations targets to use the online booking application MyCab for taxis next month.
It's just a hailing app para lang gawin mas madali para sa mga pasahero na kumuha ng taxi o hindi na sila kailangan lumabas sa kalsada, pwede silang doon lang sila sa bahay o sa opisina, darating na lang yung taxi.
The group has already presented their proposal to the Land Transportation Office, or LTFRB. However, the agency returned it. LTFRB spokesperson Eileen Lizada says they want to see first the features of the system, such as whether it will provide discounts, issue of plate numbers, release of pictures of drivers, fares, and others. Meanwhile, an online booking for airport shuttle services has been initially launched at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. The application of the Airport Shuttle Service Incorporated, or ASI, can be downloaded via Google Play Store for Android users. Users can monitor the vehicle in service and the fare they should pay depending on how far their destinations are.
Yung presyo po namin approved ng LTFRB to. So doon sa expressway lang kung dadaan ng mga sagot na pasahero yon. Plus yun doon sa rate. Pero yung rate namin fixed rate ito. Naka-GPS to pag nagtagal. So mamomonitor. At the same time, may radio kami. So namamonitor namin through radio yung aming sasakyan.
Donel Monastrial is among the first-timers to book online for the airport shuttle.
Normally, nagtataxi kami pero I think mas magandang idea to. I think maganda yung fix ang price kasi marami tayong mga illegal na taxi na nakakapermiso sa mga pasahero, especially ang mga tourists na gustong bisitahin ang Pilipinas.
Abby Santaines, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Next on Y News. The National Capital Region Wage Board approves 21 peso pay increase for minimum wage earners.
Cops and the taxi cab driver linked to the deaths of teenagers Carl Arnaiz and Reynaldo de Guzman sued for double murder.
And the Office of the Ombudsman affirms indictment of former President Noynoy Aquino in the Mama Sapano case.
Y News will be right back.
Metro Manila workers will soon receive a 21 peso increase in their daily wages. This is what the National Capital Region Wage Board have finally decided on after the Associated Labor Unions TUCP filed a petition for a 184 increase in wages. The group says the new increase will not have any effect on them. Instead, they say they will proceed with their plan to appeal to President Rodrigo Duterte for a 500 peso monthly subsidy for workers for being a big contributor in economic growth. The ALU-TUCP says the increase may take effect on October or 15 days after it gets national publication. The 21 peso increase will be added to the current 491 peso minimum wage. The Employers Confederation of the Philippines, or ECOP, on the other hand, says that although large corporations can implement their wage increase, these companies will surely get this back from adding to the prices of services and of goods and commodities. Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre says Senator Risa Hontiveros violated the Anti-Wiretapping Act 4 times for presenting a picture of his alleged text message to former Congressman Jacinto Jing Paras during her privileged speech. Marge Pelayo will tell us why.
Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre is minded to file charges against Senator Risa Hontiveros for leaking out his text message to Congressman Jing Paras. In the text conversation, Aguirre supposedly asked Paras to expedite the filing of case against the senator. Aguirre says Hontiveros violated Republic Act 4200 or the Anti-Wiretapping Act 4 times. First was when the senator allegedly conspired to take a photo of his text message. Second was the taking of the photo. Third was when the photo was validated by experts. And fourth, when Hontiveros used it in her privilege speech. Aguirre explains the immunity covers only the senator's speech and not the act of displaying the photo of the text messages.
Pag yan ay dinagdagan mo katulad ng ginawa niya, nilagay niya yung aking cellphone, picture ng cellphone ko, including yung text messages ko, the raw, na tapos nagkaroon pa ng PowerPoint presentation, violation, 4 ang violation niya dun sa 4200. Sinalaula niya ang Senado. Dun mismo, while delivering this privilege speech, nagba-violate siya ng Republic Act 4200.
Hontiveros insisted there was no violation of Aguirre's rights. She says the text conversation was accidentally caught on camera, but Aguirre says,
Hinahamon ko siya. Patunayan nung source niya, patunayan nung photographer niya, nasa katunayan ay talagang aksidente lamang. Makikita mo yan. Pag nilabas yung tape na yan, makikita mo yan kung yan ay aksidente lamang.
Aguirre refused to comment on the content of his text message, saying it could be interpreted as a waiver of his right.
Mag-focus kami dun sa whether she violated my right to private communication or not. Hanggang dun lamang. I will not comment on anything and I will not move, I will not waive anything of my rights.
Aguirre is currently preparing charges against Hontiveros, which will be filed before the Sandigan Bayan next week. He also plans to file a damage suit before the RTC. Hontiveros says she is ready to see Aguirre in court. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV, News and Rescue, Makati City.
Thank you for that report, Roderick Mendoza. Meanwhile, those involved in the killings of teenagers Kian de los Santos and Reynaldo de Guzman have been formally charged for double murder. Here's why from Maiko Miguel.
The Public Attorney's Office has formally filed complaints against the policeman and taxi driver involved in the killing of 19-year-old Carl Arnaiz and 14-year-old Reynaldo de Guzman alias Kulot. They are facing double murder charges, violation of Firearms Act, planting of evidence, violation of the Drugs Act and of the Anti-Torture Act or the Republic Act number 9745.
We included the driver. Kasi patay na si Carl. Yung sinasabi niya na hold up siya between 2 to 3 o'clock. As of 1:28, patay na. Ang basis bakit nakipagkaisa sa pulis para kasuhan si Carl?
PAO also notes the intervention of other investigating bodies in the state cases of Arnaiz and Kulot is unreasonable. PAO Chief Attorney Persida Acosta says they should no longer interfere in terms of examining the remains of the minors.
Bakit sila ba ay nagsasagawa noon? Positively identified na tong si Kulot ng NBI, ng CSR at ng PAO at ng mga magulang. Di magukay sila, ma-ombudsman sila.
Today, the Department of Justice begins the preliminary investigation on the killing of Kian de los Santos. Some witnesses, 2 of them minors, were in attendance assisted by PAO. The parents of Kian also attended the preliminary investigation. PAO Chief Attorney Persida Acosta says they have strong evidence against the 4 Caloocan policemen who initially faced complaints filed by the National Bureau of Investigation over their merciless killing of the grade 12 student.
Ngayon, we move for the issuance of subpoena ng mga iniimbestigahan ng IAS.
The 4 policemen involved in the slay case were present in the preliminary probe. They are Chief Inspector Amor Cerillo, PO3 Arnel Uwares, PO1 Jerwin Cruz, and PO1 Jeremias Pereda. Despite this, they have yet to submit their counter affidavit, saying they have not yet received a copy of the complaint.
To seek a clarification, because when we received the subpoena from the DOJ last Tuesday, there is no complaint affidavit attached in this subpoena, although there's a result of the investigation made by the NBI, but I have not seen any complaint affidavit attached herein.
The DOJ also orders the appearance of 12 other cops on duty in the Caloocan Police Station when the operation and killing of Kian de los Santos happened. According to the Acting Prosecutor General, the murder of Kian, Carl, and Kulot can be considered as high-profile slay cases.
Considering that this case is or may be considered as a high-profile complaint, I will recommend to the Secretary that a 3-member panel be created. Otherwise, it would be assigned to a individual prosecutor.
The next hearing on the De Los Santos slay case is set on September 25. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Caloocan Bishop Pablo David denies allegations of the Department of Justice that he is obstructing the investigation into the death of Kian de los Santos. Rajel Adora tells us why.
Facilitation of justice and not obstruction of justice. This has been the emphasis of Caloocan priest Pablo David following allegations that he is obstructing the investigation of the National Bureau of Investigation or NBI into the death of Kian Lloyd de los Santos. David explains that when the NBI sent him the letter requesting for the witnesses, he immediately sent them to the agency. He says the witnesses are just under his care.
And then I say, you have no problem with us, padadala ko ang mga witnesses. Kaya, why would you call that obstructing justice? It's facilitating justice. Walang ang gastos sa gobyerno, hindi man silang nagpapakain sa kanila.
The priest also denies the accusations of the Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption or VACC that he is hiding the witnesses from their father.
Actually, binibigay ko na nga sila. That was what happened on Saturday because dinala nila sa akin yung ama. Sabi ko, kailan nyo gusto? Immediately. They had no difficulty at all with me.
Meanwhile, he calls on the relatives of the victims of extrajudicial killings to come forward and to reveal what they know to prove that the deaths of Kian Lloyd and Carl Angelo Arnaiz are not isolated cases. Rajel Adora, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Meanwhile, the Office of the Ombudsman affirms the inclusion of former President Benigno Aquino III among the personalities who will be charged on the Mama Sapano incident in 2015. This after the Ombudsman denied Aquino's appeal to dismiss the case against his alleged participation in the bloody encounter. The Ombudsman says they based their ruling on Aquino's decision to allow suspended PNP Chief Alan Purisima to lead the operation against suspected terrorist Marwan. The Ombudsman adds that although Aquino then had a blanket authority as a president, such must not be used in situations where laws will be violated. Aquino spokesperson attorney Abigail Valte, on the other hand, says the former president is now conferring with his legal team for their next move. And in other news, 2 alleged Indian kidnappers were killed after an encounter with a PNP anti-kidnapping group in Palanas Road in Anabu, Imus, Cavite at around 3 this morning. The PNP AKG had been tailing the said Indian national who are suspected members of a kidnap or ransom group. The suspects were identified as Kumar Pardeep, 33 years old, and alias Honey, who was said to be between 35 and 40 years old. Recovered from the scene are 2 firearms and ammunitions and an echo bag containing what authorities suspect as ransom money. The 2 bodies were brought to Starlight Funeral Homes for an autopsy. The Environment Department is assertive of its campaign to phase out the use of ODS for ozone-depleting substance. Here's why from Ray Palayo.
The Philippines is expected to be free of hydrochlorofluorocarbons or HCFC by the year 2040. This is based on the so-called Montreal Protocol agreed upon by 197 states in 1987. HCFC is an ozone-depleting substance, an industrial component that causes thinning of the Earth's protective shield from the damaging effects of sun's ultraviolet rays that causes skin cancer and other diseases. HCFC are most common in air conditioning units and refrigerators. DENR cited in particular unit models produced and bought in the Philippines before the year 1999.
If the aircon is non-compliant, baka kung hindi mo papalitan, huwag naman laging gamitin. Kapag naman umuulan, patayin mo na para so that we can reduce yung effects sa environment.
DENR adds around 2 million people avoided deaths due to skin cancer with the implementation of the Montreal Protocol. Most of the appliances nowadays are ODS compliant, but they are now using hydrofluorocarbons or HFC as alternative. However, it still contributes to global warming.
So, ibig sabihin, yung effect ng climate change will be experienced. Like for example, sea level rise, extreme weather conditions. Ito naman ang epekto nun.
Thus, DENR calls on the public to avoid frequent use of equipment such as air conditioning units and refrigerators that emit HCFC. Developing countries have started their respective phase-out programs on HFC, but the Philippines is yet to start in 2024. DENR says there are alternatives for HFC, but the Philippines is not yet ready to adopt measures for its use. Ray Palayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
A dead body of a woman was found in the Laguna Bay today. The woman was believed to be one of those swept away by the strong water current in a river during the onslaught of Tropical Depression Marine. Victor Cosare tells us why.
Medyo may pagkatabaan yung patay, yung babae. Dahil siya kasi, nakadapa siya kasi hindi namin makita yung mukha palutang-lutang sa laot.
Fisherman Arman Alibudbod found a dead body in a part of the Laguna Lake covered by the village of Aplaya in Santa Rosa at around 7 in the morning today. The dead body was bloated and has foul smell as it had been floating in the lake for 2 days. The victim was identified as Eden Lacdao Mendoza, 28 years old. She was one of the 13 individuals swept away in the Cristobal River at dawn on Tuesday during the onslaught of Tropical Depression Maring. 4 minors are still missing, including the 2-year-old and 4-year-old children of Mendoza.
May napunta po rito po mga taga Kalamba rin, mga barangay, tanod din daw sila ng barangay sa Kalamba. Yun nga po ang sabi nila na galing daw po sa Kalamba yung patay na yun. Nakakuha rin po nila na taga roon din daw.
The remains of the victim is now at the John Paul Funeral Home in Santa Rosa, Laguna. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The 70 families who evacuated after a landslide hit their community in Barangay Hapay, Namanga in Taytay, Rizal last Monday night have returned to their homes. They say they have nowhere else to go.
Wala kasi kaming kakayanan na lumipat sa mga bahay na sa amin, kaya dyan lang kami kasi syempre libre nga naman.
Barangay Captain Alan De Leon, however, says this is just a temporary setup until they have found a place for the relocation of the residents.
Meron kasi yung standing request sila for relocation at ito ay naipadala na rin natin sa provincial government. At syempre, kailangan may proseso naman yan. Although may binanggit na rin naman ng mayor, kasi mayroong ibang mga bakanting loting po pwedeng mapaglipatan. Ayoko lang,
The Mines and Geosciences Bureau had been warning informal settlers against occupying and living in landslide-prone areas.
Those are the reasons behind the news. September 14, 2017. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am William Theo.
And I'm Darlene Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching
Why News.